I'm Travis. I'm just an average guy trying to do above average things. Today I'm going to show you how to do a coffered ceiling.
In this video, you're going to see how I went from this to this. Before you begin, make a sketch or a 3D model of your design. This will help you determine the correct proportions as well as help you estimate how much material you will need. Now mark out guidelines for the frame. While doing this, it's also a good idea to find and mark the stud locations. I used a cross-line laser level as a reference for my guide markings. This laser was pretty cool because it also had a nice perpendicular line, so I knew everything was nice and square. I put a link to this laser level in my video description. Next, cut and install the main frame piece that is perpendicular to the ceiling joist. For my ceiling I use 2x4s, but it depends on how wide you want your coffers to be. You can go wider if you have a taller ceiling. As you can see here, I'm an idiot and I did not mount the main piece perpendicular for my demonstration. Somehow the screws grabbed hard enough that I didn't notice. Do not do this. Let's all just pretend the main frame piece is perpendicular. Measure and cut the secondary frame pieces and attach it to the main frame and any other ceiling joists or drywall nailers you can find. If you absolutely need to, you can add a few heavy-duty drywall anchors, but this should be a last resort. I got lucky on my ceiling and ended up with my secondary frame pieces lining up with the ceiling joists. During this process, keep checking to make sure the frame pieces are still square. Now measure all the vertical pieces in one direction. Cut and nail them into place. For my verticals I use 1x6 prime pine. Next, repeat this process with the perpendicular pieces. You want these pieces to fit nice and tight. Now nail all the vertical pieces together so they are strong and straight. On to the bottom pieces. Carefully measure and cut the main pieces. These pieces will span across the entire ceiling. I prefer a 1/4 inch shadow line, so I install the bottom piece inset. I made a 1/4 inch check piece that I use as a reference when tapping the bottom piece into place. Once I like where I have it, I tighten the clamps to hold it in place until I can put a nail in. The rest of the bottom pieces that run perpendicular are shorter pieces. Measure carefully because these should fit snug. I test fit to make sure they are cut right, then I put a little glue on the ends to make sure that the joint stays tight over time. Crown molding can be tough. I don't really have any special tips or pointers as I'm still figuring it out for myself. My only tip would be to use something like the Craig crown molding jig. It simplifies the process a lot. I added a link to this jig in my description. Oops, cut it wrong. Crushed it. There's your problem. Once you've finished installing all the crown, you can move on to filling holes and caulking. But first, sink any nails that are still sticking out. To fill the holes, this wood filler has always worked well for me. I added a link in the description. Sand all the seams and the holes smooth with 220 grit sandpaper. I prefer this caulk for trim work. It's very flexible, so it's good at resisting cracking. I put a link in the description. Good caulking can hide a lot of mistakes, but bad caulking can look even worse than any mistake you tried to cover. Take your time and have a lot of paper towels at the ready. Ready for paint. Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe so you know when my next video becomes available.